The human body is made up of around 30 trillion cells. 84% of those cells are red blood cells. Pretty interesting fact, right? What's even more interesting to me is the fact that we host up to 100 trillion bacteria in our gut microbiome. There are more cells in us that aren't us than that are. Connections are starting to be made between chronic diseases such as heart disease, inflammation, irritable bowel syndrome, and allergies to what type of bacteria live in our gut and how many of each type there are. What is the microbiome? The microbiome consists of a variety of bacteria that perform different jobs in the digestive tract. Some bacteria break down cellulose into simple sugars, while other bacteria, called respirators, take those simple sugars and burn them as fuel. Other bacteria, called fermenters, take some of the simple sugars from the respirators and convert them into alcohol and hydrogen gas. And that in turn is fuel for bacteria called centrophs. Each of these steps produce energy that is absorbed through the large intestine. These bacteria, through their processes, can strengthen the immune system while having an anti-inflammatory response in the gut. A healthy microbiome consists of a wide variety of bacteria and higher amounts of these variety of bacteria. What is irritable bowel syndrome? According to the Mayo Clinic, irritable bowel syndrome, also abbreviated IBS, is a disorder that affects the large intestine. Symptoms include cramping, abdominal pain, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, and/or both diarrhea and constipation. Those who suffer from IBS might also observe mucus in their stools. IBS is an umbrella term for anyone who experiences the symptoms previously mentioned. However, there isn't just one cause of IBS. For some, muscle contractions in the intestine can cause IBS symptoms. For others, abnormalities in the nerves of the digestive system might be to blame. Inflammation in the gut can also bring about IBS. A severe infection can cause these symptoms as well. Changes in the microbiome, and this includes the variety of bacteria that's represented, as well as the number of bacteria of each variety. This can cause IBS symptoms as well. As many as 1 in every 5 North Americans suffer from IBS. Although IBS isn't linked to mortality rates, it is linked to morbidity rates and costs annually over $20 million. So what do the good bacteria in your gut eat? Fiber. More specifically, soluble fiber. After your small intestine finishes breaking down the food that you eat into the smallest molecules it can, the villi in the small intestine absorb the macro and micronutrients that your body needs to carry out its functions. What's left? Fiber. Dietary fiber is the non-digestible part of plants. Meat and animal products do not contain fiber. This fiber gives the plants their structure. Dietary fiber can be broken down into 2 different categories: soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber dissolves in water and is fermentable, which is important for some of the gut bacteria to feed off of. The soluble fiber is easily digested by the bacteria in your colon, also known as your large intestine. Soluble fiber is found in berries, citrus fruits, oats, and beans, to name some foods. Insoluble fiber does not dissolve in water and adds bulk to your waste, but it will not be fed upon by your gut bacteria. According to nutritionfacts.org, less than 3% of Americans get even the minimum amount of adequate fiber per day. Most get less than 15 grams per day of fiber, and the minimum amount recommended is 31.5 grams per day. Higher amounts of dietary fiber intake is associated with the reduction of many chronic diseases such as cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and some forms of cancer. However, in this video, we are focusing on how the microbiome affects irritable bowel syndrome. How does fiber and your microbiome produce anti-inflammatory responses in the gut? They are produced through bacterial fermentation of fiber into short fatty acids, abbreviated SCFAs. These FCFAs play an important role in the homeostasis of the large intestine that have anti-inflammatory effects in the large intestine. Another way that fiber protects you from irritable bowel syndrome is by protecting the mucus lining of your gut. In experiments involving mice, scientists divided the mice into 3 groups. The first group of mice were given a high-fiber diet. The second group of mice were given a fiber-free diet, and the third group of mice were given a diet that alternated from high fiber one day to fiber-free the next. The mice given a fiber-free diet had a gut microbiome that was starved of fermentable fiber. These bacteria started to die off, but others switched from feeding on soluble fiber to feeding on the mucus lining of the gut. This mucus lining keeps the gut wall intact and free from infection. The results of this experiment were that the mice fed a high-fiber diet had healthy gut linings. The mice given a fiber-free diet had a dramatically diminished gut lining where bacteria penetrated well into the mucus layer of the gut. The third group of mice, who alternated from high-fiber to fiber-free diet every other day, had half the thickness of the gut lining that the mice who had a fiber-rich diet had. So now you know the connection between the microbiome and fiber and how it can affect inflammation in the large intestine and how it can strengthen or weaken the immune functions of the large intestine. Considering that 1 in 5 North Americans have IBS, and considering that less than 3% of Americans get enough fiber, we can see that possibly if we get more fiber, we can combat the symptoms of IBS.